Hello everyone and welcome to the Belt and Road Face to Face.
That this development and cooperation will lead towards more development and cooperation in the future.
It's a unique privilege for Chinese company. The bidding is only open to Chinese companies who are stationed in China as well as in CPEC project.
There are possibilities to even run more faster.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Belt and Road Face to Face. Our program is co-produced by China Economic Net and Bush News Television. I am Zoon Khan from China Economic, and today I am pleased to be joined in our studio by Joe Rong, who is Senior Research Fellow at the Chongyang Institute for Financial Studies of Renmin University of China. And we also have with us Mr. Kamran Rasool from Pakistan, who is Quality Manager from Volkswagen Group China. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's start the first part of our program, Hotspot. According to Dawn News in Pakistan, under the framework agreement signed between People's Republic of China and the government of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Pakistan Railways is all set to invite bids from Chinese companies to tender for the country's first and biggest transport sector project, Mainline One, also referred to as ML1. From September 12th, the project could allow 160 kilometers per hour speeds for railways, which will help create thousands of employment opportunities to effectively improve the service of Pakistan Railways operation and open up new prospects for social as well as economic development for the country. As for Pakistan and China, the real question is that how will the completion of the project promote economic and trade cooperation between these two partner countries? So Kamran, let's start with you. What is the tangible impact of this development?
I think that first of all, it will create more credibility for the Chinese companies that would have contributed in this project that is very much appreciated by the locals in Pakistan. Since this news came out, that everybody is quite happy about
the locals are happy because they have opportunities to look forward to.
Opportunities and also better and more faster means of communication, the transportation. So I would say that will also bring more credibility and trust for the Chinese partners that would play an important role in this, and would also pave the way for furthermore infrastructure related cooperation, because we can see how China has built the roads and the network and the transportation infrastructure in China is amazing and much better than any other countries that I've seen so far. So it would make sense that this development and cooperation will lead towards more development and cooperations in the future.
And I think, Professor Zhou,
yes.
China has really developed phenomenally in 40 years. These 40 years have been premised on developing infrastructure and hence providing for opportunities. So how do you see this specific development of ML1 for Pakistan and Pakistan's prospects?
Yes, that's really, I read a lot of things before I come here. Let's first thing first is this time it's a unique privilege for Chinese company. The bidding is only open to Chinese company who are stationed in China as well as in CPEC project. Secondly, you see, China may contribute about 90% of the cost, and the Pakistani federal government may contribute 10%. And that is to say, we not say just we build that, we just say we upgradation.
Okay.
Upgradation.
Of an existing system.
Yeah, so that is to say, first the track will be replaced by the new material track, which can, as you said, allow the speed almost to 130 km per hour, or even mostly some people say maybe 160. Anyway, secondly, you see the signaling system will be changed, and also there will be a lot of services. What kind of services? Before that, we know that is in Pakistan, in railway, there's no Wi-Fi. There will be Wi-Fi.
So important now.
Locomotive will also change from diesel locomotive to electric locomotive. And not only that, but also you can also use your internet, use your mobile to see the seat reservation and also departure and arrival times.
So it will be like being in China.
I think there will be a slightly gap between that, you see.
Yeah.
But anyway, the direction is really very correct.
It's not a very slight gap. I think the gap is also mainly about the speed. The Chinese trains are like really fast.
Yeah. Chinese right now is 300.
Exactly. But you know, Kamran, I think step by step, like right now for Pakistan, it seems that in 2015, we really had a dearth of infrastructure.
Right.
So how, I'll come back to you, Professor Joe, on the specifics of the project as well. But for you as a Pakistani, you've lived here for so many years. What do you think can be the impact of supposedly basic developments, but really much needed developments in the sector?
So first of all, it's already a big step in the improvement itself, like having the ability to, connect while you're commuting. And also, like Professor Joe mentioned, that the tracks will be replaced. So when the tracks are being replaced, although even now the speed will be upgraded from 137 km per hour to 160 km per hour, but this upgrade of the tracks will allow the future possibilities to even run more faster trains with less effort. So this upgrading the entire network and this track will create more future development and cooperation chances for China and Pakistan.
And definitely for Pakistan. For example, Professor Joe, you've spent so much time in Pakistan. I think the culture of being able to commute from one city to another, we still don't have that in the country.
That's
and
really
it's
true.
definitely because of the inconvenience of commuting between cities.
That's right.
So do you think in Pakistan, like, we also need to change the mindset of people once we upgrade the railway system?
That's right. I think the number one important is to make people feel very comfortable whenever they take a train. For instance, the first thing you should say, there should be some track fence, which just protect people from going inside, you see. Because you see, there's some news you used to hear. There are some people just do some cooking in the train that makes very serious accidents, and also some collision between bus as well as a railway train. There's something that's a lot of tragedy. But if we want to avoid that, think something, what we say that's environmentally friendly and people friendly. So we just make people feel comfortable. Right now, people may not have to just purchase tickets from the ticket house. They can just use internet, use their phone to just purchase in advance. And not only that, but the other service is also needed. Such we say, so that if we wanted to make our train from currently so-called 120, I suppose 70 km per hour to about 120, signaling systems updating is a must. So a lot of people may not realize that. But the people's mind, I don't really think very serious, because when people just take on the train, they can just whisper to the other friends and say, okay, that's very good train.
You are watching the Belt and Road Face to Face, and we're about to enter the second part of our program, Figure. At a seminar on sustainability, security and affordability of natural gas supply in Pakistan, organized by the Petroleum Division, Prime Minister Imran Khan said that we are relying on imported gas, and that compounds the circular debt in the gas sector of the country. In 2019, Pakistan's natural gas supply has increased by 14% over the same period last year, of which the import of liquefied natural gas has increased by 74.68%, while the shortage of natural gas only decreased by 20 to 25%. So what are the reasons behind this phenomenon? We will first ask Joe Lauscher.
Okay, sure, no problem. Let me say this way. Right now, we can say Pakistan is at the beginning point of taking off economically. So in the near future, I can say Pakistan will face the shortfall of LNG, as we said, the
liquefied natural
gas, you see, very seriously. For instance, let me talk a couple of elements which are important. Number one is Pakistan currently, right now, does not have a strong pipeline system, even from south to north. Even Supreme Court recently just kicked out one very good thing, just like Pakistan Committee to study the south to north pipeline construction. Mm-hmm. This is number one. Number two is that most of your LNG have been shipped to Pakistan by ship, transported to Pakistan by ship, rather than pipeline. So actually, you have the TAPID design before that Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan.
Even Iran-Pakistan pipeline was on the table
from Chabahar to Gwadar, and even there's a inauguration ceremony for the inauguration. I think it should be 7 years ago.
Yes, for the Iran pipeline.
You see,
in 2011.
Right now it's not on the work. Yeah. It's not in reality. So for this case, you see, so if we wanted to change that, you see, we should be determined, accept some political obstacles, such as you might.
Can you explain a little bit what those obstacles were? Because at that time, the geopolitical situation was quite uncertain.
I think the obstacle for TAPID is very clear. It's very obvious because of the Afghanistan is still a turbulent country. There's no peaceful security situation.
That was TAPI.
TAPI. Yeah. But for Iran and Pakistan, the most important thing, I suppose, are two reasons. One is Americans'
pressure.
Pressure that is not allow Pakistan to do that. Another thing is that the Indian also try to use Chabahar for his East corridor strategy. I think the important thing is no matter whether you do something good or not, America may not just see Pakistan as a friend. We have already just a lot of evidence for that. For this case, first we should just implement the agreement between Iran and Pakistan for the pipeline construction. And then secondly, I suppose in Pakistan there's a problem of consumption. For Balochistan, we all know there's a Sui. Though we cannot say Sui is rich enough for its LNG, but Sui is really very important.
Source of gas for the country.
But the whole Karachi is getting the gas from Sui.
Whole Karachi.
Which is the biggest country in the city in the country.
Yes.
So do the people, end users, I'm sorry, I do not want to offend any people in Karachi or Lahore. Do the end user can contribute more to the cost of exploration of the
Kamran,
LNG.
what do you have to say about? I think we have a great history and context of this issue.
Yes.
What do you think about Pakistan's own domestic resources?
The Pakistan is
not
filled
rich.
with a lots of resources.
But
we have. There is nothing there's nothing in the world that's missing in Pakistan when we come to explore the resources. But so far, to my knowledge, is that due to some agreements that were made very long ago, Pakistan was restricted or limited to do some specific kind of explorations when it comes to natural resources, especially when it comes to the crude oil.
Okay.
Due to the Saudi Arab and the Arab countries, that was done
mostly
very
Gulf
long
country,
ago.
Gulf country.
In the Gulf countries in like early 1950s and 60s, and at those times the agreements were then solidified. So Pakistan does not do that much exploration there. It also cost a lot. So in Pakistan, there, America tried to sell their companies in the beginning before, like
Yes.
LMKR and Halliburton, which is the biggest oil companies that are digging oil from all parts of the world, including all of their coastal areas as well, and offshore.
But we refused?
I think Pakistan had sort of like, ups and downs in the relationship with the US, trying to normalize and find and neutralize, but it seems like US was having a very chaotic, kind of attitude in the surrounding areas, mainly in the, Afghanistan side. And so, just like Professor Joe mentioned, the term is 100% correct. There are political obstacles.
Yeah.
Right? But these political obstacles then can only be solved by some strong political will. So if our Prime Minister have mentioned that, then that gives us a hint that now there seems to be a political will to really address the issue and the problem, and then go around it and solve this problem. But I hope it won't be like what was also been done in the past, that the agreements were signed and the decisions were made, but they were lacking implementation. So hopefully there will be an implementation. Pakistan is a wonderful land of resources. We can cover the region Balochistan and Sindh, and we can also cover Punjab through the cooperation, if possible, through Afghanistan or maybe even Iran. But
it's not exactly just as you mentioned, Professor Joe.
Yeah.
I'll come to you with this point, because Kamran raised the idea that, of course, the political will has been an obstacle as well, perhaps. But the issue is not just of will, but it is also of capability and the system. So in China, can you make a comparison? You've spent time in Pakistan. You have so many friends from Pakistan.
Yes.
Can you compare what could Pakistan improve in order to ensure that even though we have resources in underdeveloped areas and the consumers are in more developed parts of the country, how can we have a system that benefits both?
Yeah, let's take one thing for example. You know that China and Russia just did a lot of negotiation on the pipeline and the oil pipeline, especially LNG pipeline. Yes, it took a lot of years, but because of leaders are determined, are not negatively influenced by any kind of interest group. So we did very successful with both Russia as well as Kazakhstan. But right now that is on the regard of the relations between Iran and Pakistan. There are a lot of
uncertainties,
chaos. A lot of marvelous conversation, mutual visit or something like that. But on the whole, the implementation of their idea is really very limited. I think first, if we want to solve the problem of the Pakistan, the shortfall of gas, first the pipeline from the neighboring country. Iran is of course very available. This is one thing. Secondly, you see, make Baluchi people more active for their production. Of course, in Sui, not necessarily all the Baluchi workers, but a lot of
you mean
migrant workers from the country.
Sui, yeah.
Reservoir and
a lot of other people from other provinces come to Sui or some other. But anyway, because Sui is located in Balochistan, let the Balochistan people get some more benefit, and some end user in Karachi and Lahore can contribute the cost more. So that is to say, they backward people, they can gain something.
They can gain more, and I think, Kamran, how would you like to respond to this?
No, I have not finished.
Okay.
You can say
sure.
In China, for instance, Xinjiang and Tibet, you see, there are a lot of other provinces which have the mutual connection. That my task is to assist you to be developed. Yeah, you see, there's many kind of Ningxia. We also have the same thing, but in Pakistan, there's not that kind of connection. That it is the Punjab province duty to help Balochistan, to help the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. I think if we have this kind of friendly connection, that is mutual help, you see. So
we
a
will
lot
come,
of things,
Professor Zhou, to the west to east natural gas pipeline experience of China's. I would really want
Yes,
you
that
to
is
elaborate on that. But before that, I'll come to you, Kamran, that as a Pakistani, you know, we observe that we don't have very balanced development in the country. And actually, it's something that we inherited. It's many reasons, geographical, historical, etc. But can natural resources help develop the underdeveloped areas? This is the key question.
For sure, definitely.
How?
Natural resources as well as the renewable energy measures, if these are taken smartly, then these decisions can help develop. Because you see, when you are developing a barren land or a you know, like a small city or a village, it is much easier to develop than an already developed metropolitan city or a metropolis
Yes,
area.
It's like a canvas.
So,
like
and you can see this from China. Like for example, Wuxi 10 or 15 years ago was not that developed.
That's right.
And Shenzhen was actually nothing as compared to where it stands right now.
Small
In 20 years,
village.
it has like something completely different. So to start a development from the scratch is much easier and much better than you target and you say that, you know what, we are going to develop Karachi in next 2 or 5 years and it will look like this. That would be so much difficult because you will have to bring down a lot of infrastructure, you have to tear apart a lot of things. But when you start to develop new cities or some very small villages and you want to create new infrastructure for the future generations, and that, you know, we also should take into account the population growth in Pakistan. You know, China and Pakistan, they have different kinds of worries. Chinese now government, they would want to have more population and for the more younger generation to grow and expand. But for Pakistan, population is still a big hazard for us.
We find it difficult to find opportunities for the population.
And what happens is now that all the people from the smaller cities and villages, they start coming to Islamabad or Lahore and Karachi. So for how long can these big cities still contain
how much can
themselves?
They take? And really, Professor Zhou, before our question on the west to east natural gas pipeline, very quickly, I have two questions for you. First of all, Pakistan does not have so many major cities. Why? We only have 3 to 4 major cities in a country of 220 million. I mean, if you really, frankly speaking, 3 are at different level, and then 4th is Quetta.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. Yeah. So, but this is very small number. And secondly, what lessons can we learn from China's experience of developing a west to east natural gas pipeline? These two questions. For you.
I think the first question is whenever we find some area which is rich in resources, we need to do a lot of exploration for that and also benefit from that. And along this phase, we need to do one thing, that to what we say, to build an economic belt and to attract the people to stay there.
With that and with insightful comments from both our guests, we will close the second segment of our program. You are watching the Belt and Road Face to Face, and we are about to enter the third part of our program, culture. Recently, after the release of Chinese film 800, the domestic box office record was exceeding 2.4 billion RMB, which is known as the rescue work. 800 innovated the film market by reviewing the history that happened in the motherland in the form of film. It is reported also that Pakistan will reopen its cinemas on 11 September, and the first week after opening will mainly focus on Hollywood films. In recent years, we have also seen that a few Pakistani films have been introduced in the Chinese market. Firstly, Kamran, coming to you, we know film collaboration is so important. It's meaningful. It gives an insight between cultures. How do you think the current level of cooperation is today?
I would say that in my observation so far, the current level of cooperation is almost non-existent, although there
But
had been the agreements done
Yes.
on on a very, very higher level, I would say, between the two countries. In 2019 was the latest one, and before also, in which the clear statement was stated that people-to-people exchanges and travel and tourism. At the same time, it was also mentioned about the the cultural awareness creation through creating the movies and the films. And so on, and
joint ventures, maybe even.
Yes, even joint ventures.
Chinese and Pakistanis.
But then, before we talk about the joint ventures, let's just go back a little bit in the history and talk about the time when it really was very good from Pakistan. Because the question you asked, that why is it like this now?
What is it like now?
Like I mean, like very less films are introduced. In fact, you say very less films are introduced. I don't even know if there is even one film that was introduced. But even if it was, that I'm pretty sure that very less amount of people have watched it in Pakistan. So it is because basically the overall industry in Pakistan, we have to admit, the film industry is really not doing well at all. At least not as good how it used to be. It used to be really good. That was like back in 1978 when the first movie from Pakistan was introduced to China, and then from 1978 up until 1990 there were at least more than 12 movies that were released to China. And China was even back then, China was still a country that was very careful about what kind of content the Chinese nationals can see and what kind of content they could not see.
And actually, yes.
Their favorite actor was Nadeem and Zeba Bakhtiar, Wahid Murad and Shabnam, and there were even talks going on at that time between the cultural attaché. Every embassy, they have a department called the Cultural Division. So basically, this department operates under the Ministry of Information, and so I would say, back then, when the Pakistan film industry was doing very well, at the same time, the Pakistan government and the embassy
were involved.
Everyone was working like as a team. So that would make sense, and it was asked by the Chinese government that let's do the joint venture. So I don't think we can think about talk about the joint venture until first we bring our film industry up to that standard. And in order to fix that, we probably will have to look at the budget first, because the movies, it needs some funding.
These are too many ideas all at once.
Yeah, but with low budget movies, you cannot really create a movie to, give a meaningful message or a story to the audience.
Because in the end, it's a choice to watch a movie. We can't force kids to watch the movie like in a classroom.
I haven't watched any Pakistani movie in last, 25, 30 years.
Okay, I have watched a few. Actually, a few of them have won great awards in international film festivals as well. Actually, people from other countries recommend me to watch those movies sometimes. So this is true that recently we have a lot of very creative content, but it's not making it to the box office. And Professor Joe, I have too many questions for you first. First, you have to answer my questions. Kamran talked about this golden period when culture, movies from Pakistan were very popular in China. Did you ever watch a Pakistani movie?
I don't think I watched the Pakistan movies up to now in China. But in Pakistan, I watched something like that. But just a bit because for preparation of this dialogue, I watched one of your movie just released this year.
What's the name?
Baluchi Chad. How to say?
I haven't watched it, but I will watch it afterwards.
Balochabad. But I do not know the meaning of that. Let me talk some continue.
Yes, please.
Yes. The audience in 1980s are very different from right now. You see, that is 1980 is the last generation. It's just like my generation or even some before. You see, so that is in China. Just if you wanted to show Balochabad, the movie, which is I saw that from the beginning to the end, very vivid. Just talking something about the Balochi girl who wanted to renew herself, wanted to make a study, wanted to just to have a more
meaningful life,
enhance their low dignity, low status or something like that, and for family, for childbirth, for a lot of things. They have a lot of concept. They have to resist the Sadar system, which she feel very pricey, you see, for her. But if that movie introduced to China's market, so something need to be done. Number one is that have to translate into Mandarin, not only Chinese language, but Mandarin. But is Pakistan or China has a capacity?
Subtitles, like all other foreign movies have subtitles.
I mean, a subtitle.
Yes.
Subtitle may not be very accepted by Chinese audience. This is number one. Number two is nobody knows, not so many people knows the Pakistani culture, let alone just the Balochistan culture. So if there's no any illustration about the background of the movie production, nobody understands. So people may lose the patience watching from the beginning to the end. Then the profit cannot get, you see.
With that, thanking both of our wonderful guests
Thank you.
for an amazing conversation, insight, and great ideas to further the cooperation. We will close today's program. Thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.